Welcome to Homespun, where creativity finds its voice. I'm your host, Misty Doan. Join me each week as we dive into the mind of designers, industry experts, and individuals as they share their unique processes, their inspiration, and their creative journeys. It's going to be a wild ride. This week, I'm talking to Stephanie Organes, an incredible fabric designer with Andover Fabrics, hailing from Mexico City, Mexico. I know you're going to love her story. I'm so excited to be here with Stephanie Organes. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, virtually, even if we can't be in person.
I know. Hi, Misty. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's always an absolute delight to talk to you. I just love you to death. So for those that maybe don't know you, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for having me. And I'm Stephanie Organes. I'm from Mexico City. And I'm a fabric designer for Andover Fabrics.
Awesome. And how did you get started designing fabrics?
It comes a long way. Like I started designing fabric just a couple of years ago, but I think I have I've been always like very creative since I was a child. I've been always very drawn to all kind of crafts and doing scrapbooking. Since I was a kid, I always loved, I remember always buying like crayons that was like always drawing.
Yes.
That is something that I really enjoyed since I was a kid. So when I grew up and I wanted to, I went to university. I was between studying graphic design and studying marketing. So this was really tough because I was like, oh, I like both. But at the end, I took a year off and I went to Italy for a year to study in Florence. So this year was like really, how you say it, like very decisive or because like living there, I studied like art history and a lot of, painting classes and drawing and just being there, like surrounded by all this beautiful art and museums and everything. Like that's when I really realized of like, no, what I'm going to do in marketing? I have to study design. So I went to university. I went back home and I studied graphic design. And from there, I graduated and then I worked for in advertising and publicity and then in packaging design. And
so you got to use both design and marketing in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it was very good because I get to be in the creative part of doing campaigns and everything, but also producing the art, all the graphics, and so it was good because I learned both. So and after that I was working, and also advertising is very, very demanding. Like the hours are crazy. So I was working, and then I got married, and we went to the U.S. for because my husband, he studied there. So we were abroad, but I couldn't work when I was in the U.S. because we were on a student visa. So I don't know if I have told you this before. So when I was there, I started taking like all kinds of classes in scrapbooking and all these things. I love them. And
how fun. You didn't tell me that.
Yes, I started knitting as well. And then I took some baking classes, and cookie decorating and so I started to, it was very fun. That was another stage in my life. I really enjoyed when
So was that like your first creative love, the cookie decorating?
It was, that was, I think, my first entrepreneurial or on my own, because I started doing like cookie decorating, and then I went back to Mexico, and I didn't want to go back in advertising because of the hours, and my husband also was working crazy hours. So I started doing cookie decorating, for cookies for events, like for baby showers. And then it was so much fun because there's this event in the US, and it started in Salt Lake City, that is called CookieCon, like QuiltCon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
That sounds amazing. Do you just get to eat sweet treats all the time when you go?
Exactly. Yeah, we were eating cookies all the time and decorating the whole day. And
How
like
fun.
taking lots of classes and learning all the techniques. And so I went, I think I went 3 years, no, just, or two, I don't remember, 2 or 3 years. I even got like some of my cookies won some of the contests over there, and it was so much fun. But it was also like I really enjoyed the designing part. Like I love to draw, and when I came back to Mexico and people ask me like, "Oh, I love this design," I love to make it or create like something very special for that event. But when they ask me, "Okay, now can you do 150 cookies the same?" It's like, oh my god, like I don't know.
It took the joy out of it a little bit.
Exactly. I lost
Became work.
Exactly, because I what I really enjoyed was designing, making the designs. Like for Christmas, I did nativity sets, like 200 nativity sets, and it was amazing. But it was too much. Like so I after that I started teaching classes, like just the techniques. But then no more. I was like I really enjoy. I didn't enjoy the baking. Like I love the design and everything, but the icing crust and everything. So you when you start decorating a cookie, you have to sit down and finish it. So if you have 100 cookies, you have to finish them. Like so, at the end, I was like, I mean, I love it, but not anymore. It wasn't that joyful anymore for me. So and then I have Ana Sofia, my first daughter, my first baby, and yeah, so I quit cookies. I was like, no, I can't do this with a newborn, so I stopped doing that. And then that's when I like my journey in quilting started. Like Ana Sofia was very little, and I was again in this search of a creative outlet. Uh, like that's what happened when I was with my husband when he was starting his MBA. Like I was like, okay, this is fun, but I really need to. I always enjoy learning and doing things, so that's why I want to like learn baking and all these things. So now with Ana Sophie, I was like, okay, I'm enjoying my baby and everything, and it's been fun. It's like a new stage in my life, but I really needed to do something else.
Yeah, you
So
needed that creative outlet.
yeah, exactly. Like and this time for me, like when I'm like right now is sewing, but before if it's drawing, and like I think it gives me, I don't know, it disconnects me, like it really relaxes me, and this is my time for me. Like overnight you are doing like things like scrapbooking or all kind of scraps, or also knitting. So there's this shop near my house where I used to live. That it's a quilt shop that now the owner Lily, she's a very good friend of mine. So like I always, it was my stroll with Anna Sophie and well in her stroller, and I was like, okay, maybe someday I'm gonna go there and yeah, to see what's all about.
So did
And
you just go to look at fabric? Is that what, like, that was the first thing that you went for?
no, yeah, the fabrics, but I wanted to take classes. Like
Okay,
I
you were looking for those classes.
Yeah, because I've never sewn before. I never owned like a sewing machine. Like my mom did, she did like all our, costumes, and yeah, she likes to sew. But like I never was like very drawn to it. Like for me, it was, I don't know, scary. Like the sewing machine was.
Well, sometimes the machine can be intimidating for people,
I
right? Like
know.
it's a
Yeah, like
big barrier of entry for a lot of us.
exactly, like threading the machine and everything. I don't know it. I don't know why I didn't come to that earlier, but
Yeah.
well, it came at the right time.
At the right time, exactly. Everybody has
So
their own journey to get there.
exactly. So
So
yeah,
did you find classes then that
yes.
okay.
They were super welcoming because it could be intimidating to walk to a quilt shop and like it's people that have been sewing for years and I don't even know how to use a machine, but they were like the loveliest, like super patient. So I took my first class. They showed me like how to use the machine. And I have it here, my first project that I made with them.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, I'm so
yeah,
glad you brought it with you.
it's like
Let's
it's
show everyone.
so was my quilted project. Like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So cute. I have never made a stuffed bear. So you are already farther along than me.
It was pretty easy. Like
Oh, it's so cute.
I wanted to make a pouch, like a bags and everything, because they have so many bags. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And Lily, the owner,
Mhm.
she was like, no, Stephanie, please, we need to start like slowly. You need like the first steps, no? So we did, like all the panels, like quilted, and then like
Yeah.
for her in her store, this is like the beginner friendly project.
I
So
love that. I love because in my mind that like it seems difficult. And so I love that you were able to dive in with that head
exactly.
first thing. I mean, I'm sure you learned so many skills
Yeah, and I think it
making
was
that.
just in a couple of classes, maybe one or two. It wasn't that many, and
That it took you to do it.
yeah, and this really like opened my mind. I was like, oh my god, I can do so many things now. So I started like doing. Well, I kept on learning like a lot of through the internet, and then like on my own and trial and error, and then I found out about QuilCon. I was in Pasadena. Well, I was in Los Angeles when QuilCon was there, so I decided to go, and
Yeah.
that was my first one. I think it was, I don't remember, 2018, I think it was. And it was amazing when I got there and I saw like all the fabrics and all the colors, and I was like, oh my god, I was just like so impressed by it. And
Pure inspiration, right?
yeah, exactly. Like I didn't know that it even existed, like so
Yeah.
many fabrics and styles, and super modern. That's what I like. And you know me that I love a lot of color.
Yep.
And um, so yeah, I got a lot of fabric. Well, I brought back home a lot of fabric, and I started doing things, well, for my kids. Well, for Anna Sophie, I did like I started doing pouches and then diaper bags and a lot of things to organize. Like your like the things for your kids, like for when you go to the nursery or things like that. So I started like a small. Well, that's how I started my brand, Pretty Please,
Yeah.
and I started selling my bags and doing like I don't know how you call them, like small markets in the schools. You have different like
There's
fairs or
things like that here.
exactly. So that's where I started selling them, and people recommend me, and that's how I started like my brand and doing my bags. And then
I love that. And the thing that it brought to mind for me, sorry to interrupt you just a little bit, the thing that it brought to mind is so many of us come to sewing or quilting because we're looking to make things that are
yeah,
functional that are also cute and what we want, right? Because it wasn't always easy to find. I can remember being a young mom and feeling that myself and, wanting this certain dress for my daughter or this certain pillow for my son. And I think that's why so many of us turn to this craft is to be able to say, okay, well, I want this thing, but I want it to look like this. And if you're a creative at heart, then it's just kind of a natural progression. So I love that that's part of your story.
yeah, and it makes it like so special, no? Like I have the first quilt that
Mm-hmm.
I did for each of them of my kids, and yeah, it's like a treasure. Like yeah, it makes it like super special. And
Absolutely, because we know how much heart goes into it, right?
I know. And
Yeah,
more
filled with love.
yeah, the first ones. Like now I see the first ones and I'm like, oh my god. Like the other day I have to how do you say it? Like mend like one block
Yeah,
was coming out and I was like, oh my god. Like I think the seam was like super tiny and but it's still holding after almost 5 years. So
exactly. And if it starts to come loose, it just means it's been well loved. That's all.
exactly. It's being used.
Yeah. I love that. So you built your business making bags and small projects to sell. And so then how did you make the leap into fabric design?
Yeah, from there, like well, then we have the pandemic. Uh,
Oh,
Yeah, when
right.
the
Yes.
pandemic hit, well, you remember we were at our houses all day long. And so that's when I
Mhm.
started like sewing. I think that was really my therapy. Like I was sewing all the nights. Like my husband, he always tells me that when he hears the machine, he reminds him of that because he heard at the end like all night. And I started taking a lot of classes online, and yeah, like sewing all night. And from there, Missy, I have like how you call it, well, I had like I had a thrombosis. Well, it's like a very bad health issue. And
Mm.
so that was, I think that was really like the beginning, how you say, like it marked like a difference in my life, uh,
Yeah.
because it like awakened me, it woke me up. Like I was like, I,
Yeah.
I I realized after QuiltCon that all these beautiful fabrics that I really love, and all the patterns and all the things, that they were made by designers. So that's when it hit me that, okay, I'm a designer. I can create my own. So after this, like this event, like I was like almost for a month recovering during the pandemic.
Mm.
That's when I started drawing, and I found. I when I was in the university, I studied for a year in London, and the university that I was studying there, they started doing like all the short courses online. So they have a course in textile
Okay.
design. So during the pandemic, I took this course and I started doing my collections. Then I found, Bonnie Christine. She had the immersion course, so I took her course as well. And then this one I started doing like all my collection, putting collections together, and yeah, and then I print them with Spoonflower. Like I started sending
Okay.
all different samples to my house, and well, like squares and well, different, yeah, like all my collections, I printed them. So
Yeah. What was it like seeing your designs for the first time
it
on
was
fabric?
amazing.
Was that a
Yeah.
big deal?
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, when you see them, like you realize, and then that's when you start like this perfection is like, oh, this should be a little bigger, smaller, but it's amazing when you see your designs like come to real life, and when you start cutting the fabric and doing the samples, and it's amazing. I have, yeah,
I love that. I can relate to that. I mean, I don't design fabric myself, but I design quilts and I do a lot of the design work digitally. And so I imagine, I think you do digital
yes,
design as well for your
yeah,
fabric, don't you? Yes. And so when you're creating on the computer, you're not always 100% sure how it's going to translate into fabric. And so that process for me is really exciting. And I can see the correlation between designing the fabric itself and designing the quilt. And it's always exciting when you find that perfect fabric, and I just always love yours. So I can imagine when you first had it printed, it was like,
yes,
what
and
a
you know
day.
what? It was amazing because when I was doing maybe like a bag, and I was like, no, I need another blender. It was so much fun, and that I could make another one and print it and have it here,
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I need another
Yes.
lighter color or something darker, and it's so much fun that you can play and yeah, customize it as the way exactly as you like. So it was amazing.
Yes.
So I started doing
Absolutely.
all these samples because I was building my portfolio. I wanted to show to companies like actually because we do a lot of mock-ups and to see how your fabric will look, but I think it adds something more, and people can see it better when you actually have the product. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's why I did. I have different bags. One of the bags that you put on, you remember on Instagram, it's a one bag, one of my first samples that I made with my, yeah, with my Spoonflower samples,
Wow.
yeah, I built my portfolio from that, and started, yeah, like knocking on doors, and yeah, and my sister, she lives in New York, so when I was in New York, I went to visit her after the pandemic, and I sent my portfolio to Andover because Andover is there, and yeah, and they like it, and yeah, now I'm working
The rest is history,
history, and
right?
yes, and it's been great because we make a very good match. They're amazing people, and it's been like really fun and easy, and I've learned so much working with them. Like we
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Do you have any advice that you would offer to other up and coming fabric designers or people who are interested in getting into that
Yeah,
space?
I think to, like, for me, to not be afraid to reach out and to knock on doors, because sometimes, like for me, I'm in Mexico City and it feels that I'm like so far away of the game, like the whole
Mm.
industry, most of it is in the US. And I felt that it was like so hard to reach. But I think it's what I would recommend is like to be consistent, to reach out, like don't doubt yourself, and don't be afraid, to knock on doors and send emails and make those calls. Like it feels sometimes very uncomfortable, but at the end, I mean, if they don't like it, they don't like it, and maybe it's not. Don't take it personally, because also like it could be that they have already new designers, so they are not hiring right now, but that doesn't mean that maybe in a couple of months or maybe a year they can reach out back to you. Like, don't be afraid to put your work out there, and like be very consistent, and I really believe that you can do it. Like,
I love that because no doesn't have to be a no forever. It can just be a not right now.
exactly.
And I think sometimes when we're working so hard for this thing that is important to us, we hear no and it just crushes us. But it's just part of the journey. And I think every no that I've gotten, I've certainly learned some major
Yeah,
lessons. And so I think that's a good reminder to just keep pushing through. If it's something that you love and you're passionate about, it will work out in the
yeah,
end.
and don't be afraid to follow up, because sometimes, like, if we
Mm-hmm.
don't get a response, or maybe they say no, we say, oh, okay, they say no, and that's it. No, like for example, for me, when I sent my portfolio to Andover, I think it passed, I don't remember how many months it could be, that I didn't heard from them. And
Mm,
but then I say, okay, I'm gonna send them an email. Like, okay, yeah, and my
yeah,
portfolio that I sent, because I sent like a physical copy, and and
right.
then they responded, oh yes, we love it. And I was like, oh my god, maybe I would never send that
Yeah,
email, and they forgot because they're super busy. And no, so
exactly.
don't be afraid to reach out, and to share your work also. Like, yeah,
Exactly. Because, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You already thought maybe they weren't interested because you hadn't heard, but what's the best that could happen? You get this amazing
very
opportunity
much.
to collaborate. And I love that. Such a powerful lesson for all of us to
Yeah,
uh, be willing to put ourselves out
exactly.
there. So I'm so glad you were brave enough to reach back out because what a gift your designs
I
are to the
It was hard.
industry.
I'm not saying
So
it was easy, because of also it's very
no,
hard, and you're very close to your work. But
yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of vulnerability
exactly.
there. You're really putting yourself out there so much. You've put so much heart and soul into that. And so then to put that out there and to have it be, critiqued, I can
Like,
imagine that
introduce
is
yourself
very
is difficult.
difficult.
Like, oh, hi, my name is. It was. I did that also in Quilcon. I think it was. What was that? I don't remember. The first one after the pandemic. I think it was Phoenix. I took my portfolio
Phoenix,
there,
yeah.
and it was not. It was. It's vulnerable, but at the end, I felt very good about myself, because I went there, and I was like, "Hi, my name is Stephanie. This is my portfolio. Do you have time?" And sometimes it's like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Oh, can you come back? We're a little bit busy." It's like, "Oh my god, that's so embarrassing." But I mean, it doesn't care. I mean,
But it's just part of it, right? It's not it and like I said, it doesn't have to be a no forever. It's just a not right now. And so being willing to be flexible and work with people is such an important lesson for all of us. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. If it's okay with you, I would love to circle back a little bit to your taking classes and your first foray into quilting, because I know you have mentioned to me in the past that it was a little bit difficult because English is not your native language. You're from Mexico
Mhm.
City. And you said that there's not a lot of resources for Spanish speaking quilters. So, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, yeah, there are not many. Like, I think there are books that have been translated, but actually, like, I've learned everything in English. Like all the
Mm,
my quilting. Like, for example, in Mexico, we have our metric system is centimeters. So
right.
learning even an inch, I was like, how much is an inch? Now I have it in my mind, but for me, it's okay, it's like 2.5. You have to make this adjustment, and yeah, I learn everything in English, like all the. Well, I learned at Lily's store, but even there, like we talk about inches, well, in Spanish, but we don't translate it to our system, like to centimeters. She has a lot of books that are in Spanish, but yeah, most of the things are everything's in English. So, and yeah, I learned by watching YouTube, by watching Jenny's videos. So, like, all quilting is in English. So, at the beginning
Yeah.
it was, and now it's difficult because yeah, when I explain it in Spanish, I'm all the time talking words in English, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's it's not very good. And but yeah, everything's in most of the things are in English. I mean, our quilting
So
world is it's growing.
what would you sorry. What would you like to see to make it easier for Spanish speakers to be introduced to this wonderful hobby? Like what changes could be made?
I think yeah, we should like have. I mean, it's growing here, and there are like wonderful, wonderful teachers here in Mexico, like all around the country.
Great.
And I think they're doing a great job. Like everybody teaches in Spanish, but I think we definitely need more. Like how do you say, like, yeah, like media created for Spanish, like videos more specific in Spanish, even the patterns, because most of the patterns, yeah, the
Right.
patterns are in English. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people just watching the pattern, like try to translate it and like create their own. But yeah, I think we need more resources in Spanish.
I love that. I would love to see that too. I know when I was at this last quilt con, it seemed to be a reoccurring theme of people that I talk to really looking for this desire for more Spanish speaking tutorials, Spanish speaking patterns, and beyond, even other languages, obviously. And I think we just have to talk about it and make sure that people realize that the need is out there and people are looking for it. So when you design patterns, do you write them in both English and Spanish?
No, I write them in English.
See, Stephanie.
I know, because I'm designing for every collection. We have a pattern, so I do the
Okay.
design, and Andover they write the pattern. So we're
Oh, okay.
distributing through Andover. Well, these are like free patterns. So, but yeah, I need
Yeah.
to start making patterns that are in
Oh, I would love
Spanish.
that. I would love
Yeah.
that. Well, I believe in you. If anybody can do it, you can for
I'm
sure.
believing them.
So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. All the
yes,
patterns from my collections are in English because they do it like the company writes the patterns and everything. Like I.
writes the
Yeah.
pattern for you. Yeah,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
So
Makes
yeah.
sense. Well, just tell them so many people would benefit from Spanish
Yes. Yes. Yes.
patterns. So that would
That's
be
something that I want to
awesome.
start doing. Like I have patterns, but they're all most of them they're with Andover. So I want to start creating like having my own patterns written by myself, or maybe
Yeah.
have something in Britain for me. But I want to start having more patterns out there.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I would love, to know what other resources are out there. I'm sure if you knew about them, you would be utilizing them. But people ask me often, they're like, "Do you know about any tutorials in Spanish?" And it certainly seems to be a missing piece in our
Yes.
industry. So I hope it's one that we can help fill up and find more availability
Yeah.
there in the near future, because there's so much amazing talent all throughout the world, and we need to make sure that we're utilizing and sharing all of
Yes.
it. So I certainly hope we get more
Yeah.
more in the
More in
future.
Spanish. Like I know well, my friend Lili with Lina from Colombia, they this amazing retreat with you guys at Missouri Star, and
Yes.
and that
Yes.
was the first retreat in Spanish. So I think that's a great,
And it was so wonderful, and people
yeah,
loved it. I was so thrilled to hear that that was taking place here in Hamilton, and for it to be full of people who were excited and to be able to, speak their native language and be comfortable and learn in their native language. I love it, and I hope we just continue to
yes,
see
yes.
more of that
They
happening.
already are planning the next one for next
Oh,
year.
perfect.
It's gonna be again in November. So yeah, I'm so excited for them.
Oh, that's
They're really
so
amazing.
great. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
it's fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, is there anything else you would want to say to creatives in general about the process, maybe about how to continue to find inspiration when things get hard? Because I know we all can fall into creative ruts. So, maybe just a little bit of encouragement if people are in that place.
Yeah, for me, what it works like I try to schedule the time, like when I, because sometimes also when I'm working a lot and then like maybe I finish a collection and you have this rush that of all the work and then you have to start doing quilts and other things. Like what I like to do is pause, like really have like some time, like time off for myself, with my kids, with my family. That really helps to have a time to rest. And then I try to be like, for me, I need to be like drawing all the time, so I like to schedule maybe once a week or every other week. I mean, I should do it weekly, but sometimes I can't. But I like to schedule, as you schedule like an appointment for going to the doctor. Like I do it the same, like from this hour to this hour, it's for myself, and I'm gonna be drawing, or I'm gonna be sewing, or I like the I don't know, if I have a project that has been sitting there for a while. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna commit an hour to finish this quilt or to do something. Yes, yeah. So it
Absolutely.
really it really helps me, and for me it works that I have to push myself to do it. Like if not, it could go by weeks and weeks and weeks. So sometimes um, we don't need to wait to creativity to spark, like I love who says that. I have it written, I think it was like Einstein or someone, like it says that don't wait for creativity to come, like creativity has to find you working, so you have to push.
I love that.
So because that thing, that wait for inspiration to come, I think it's never going to come. You have to, because that motivates you when you are working or sewing. That's when you say, oh, maybe I can now do this.
Maybe I can try this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that. And it was interesting for me because as a natural creative, I've been, creative my whole life, whether it's, drawing or painting or writing poetry or sewing or whatever I'm doing. I have always been I've been a free spirit. I don't like to be tied down to schedules. But I've found a lot of creative peace since I realized that as a professional creative, I have to
Yeah,
schedule that time, whether it is, like you said, the downtime to just pause and enjoy everyday life and my family and some of those successes that have come. But then also, I have to schedule. It's time to design. I have to get into the studio and do these things. And for a little while, that was a hard transition for me because I just want to. Maybe I want to bake this day, and I want to draw this day, and I want to design this day. But since really putting those parameters on myself, I've seen great personal growth. And so
yeah,
I think I can attest to what you're saying there, that if you want to be creative as a hobby, it's okay to just let it be when inspiration strikes. But if you want it to be your career, you have to treat it as such, and you have to schedule it and you have to give it time and attention. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for spending time with me
yeah.
today, for sharing a little bit about your journey. I just love you. I think you're amazing. So,
Thank you for having me. That was
yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Can you let everybody know where they can find more about you and your
Yes.
work if they want to follow along?
Yeah, my website is stefaniorganes.com, and I'm starting my newsletter. So if you want to join, and also I'm social media at prettyplease.mx. That's how can you find me, both
Perfect.
Facebook and Instagram. Mhm.
Awesome. You guys will be sure to want to follow along. She has such beautiful designs and projects, so you won't want to miss it. Stephanie, thank you again, and I will see
Thank you,
you next
Misty. Thank you
time.
for having me.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you.